Namaste. We're going to begin our yin yoga practice today. And this particular week, I started talking about Shiva and Shiva's drum and how the drum represents the rhythm of time, the rhythm of our heart, but that the energy behind Shiva and the symbology behind Shiva is the idea of dissolution and destruction, a dissolving away, even death, to be reborn, to be saved, to have liberation, to be free, or to be reborn, rebirth, or to set up a new beginning. And the energy of this particular full moon that's happening tomorrow is supposed to have this same sort of energy. I keep hearing podcasts about this one saying that there's a big portal of energy coming that's going to start off with this full moon and carry us in through the next 4 weeks. And that things that have been looming over us may get resolved, or we may start to see things dissolve or depart from our life, but that new things may be coming in from that clearance, from that purging. So I found out yesterday that, you've probably heard there's been all of these floods in Europe. I believe Belgium and Germany. I even heard Netherlands, that there's been tons of flooding, lots of damage. And then I heard that the same thing is starting to happen in China. And I don't know, I didn't research it to see if it was absolutely correct, but I heard there was 22 inches of rain that just came down. And the person I was listening to was saying, pay attention to the numbers, pay attention. There was something that showed up with 11, there was something that showed up with 22, and how in numerology, these are what's called master numbers. And their point in bringing this up is that some of these events are fated. Some of these events have to take place because the planet is going through so many shifts right now that in order for us to evolve or ascend into the next level, the earth, like everything else, has to purge. That's what energy is, always constantly changing. So there may be something being purged from your life. It may be something kind of surfacing that has been ignored or denied to some capacity. But basically, what we're going to be building up for today in the practice, we're going to do a blend of active and more passive yin. And we're going to be building up for a pose called hero pose. Because no matter what is happening in our lives, we need to remind ourselves we are the hero of our own story. So I was just sharing with you guys a situation that my father has found himself in. He fell. He's a high risk anyway of falling from his stroke, and he tore his meniscus on his knee. And when they did the x-rays and the MRIs and all the scans and tests they do, they also said he's highly arthritic in that particular knee. And I didn't approve or agree with my mom, after he got released from the hospital, to take him home, because it's just them at home and she doesn't have one of the PT belts. And all through the hospital, the physical therapy would use the belt and two people to carry him back and forth. I understood emotionally why she made that choice, but I didn't understand medically why she made that choice. And I was on a separate text with my sisters, and I said something to one of my sisters of, I wish someone would explain to mom there's a difference between a caregiving saint and a martyr. And that's what I want us to remember. If we're going to be the hero of our story, yes, we want to help people. Yes, we want to improve not only our life and other people's lives, but we also have to remember we can't become a martyr for it or to the situation. We have to take care of ourselves too. And so that's why we're leading up to the hero pose. I want you to remember you are the hero of your story, whatever's happening in that narrative. And in yin yoga, this hero pose is actually called saddle. And there's a shirt that I used to wear a lot, and it said, "Life's a journey, enjoy the ride." So also consider that, because we have the peaks and valleys, the highs and low in life, and we always have to be prepared to saddle up. And saddle up because sometimes the ride is smooth and sometimes it's wild. So I'll meet you on the mat. Be sure to have your block handy. We're going to start off in a seated position today. And in your seated position, I want you to create a mudra. This mudra we used earlier this week. We're going to place the left hand, I'm not mirroring you, the left hand at the navel center, and all the fingers are kind of glued together. The right hand is going to stack on top of that with the thumb up, as if you were trying to catch a lift, hitchhiking. This is called the Shiva Linga. And when it's placed here and you're practicing this hand gesture, it's about combating the times where you feel drained, disillusioned, dissatisfied. Practicing when things aren't dissolving or being destructed around you, but also remembering with the destruction can come construction. You can always rebuild. This particular mudra also represents the vital life force. It can help us to energize. It's also said to promote healing. And think about where we're resting this mudra, right at the core. The place that correlates back to the element of fire, more specifically the fire of transformation. Let's take a few deep breaths here. Now relax your hands down alongside your body. Pick up your heart center, your breastbone, as well as the crown of the head. Then sweep that right arm skyward, and as you exhale, slide your left hand away from the body. Let that top arm just C-curve down, bending from the elbow. The hand can even rest on the head. And take some deep breaths in and out through the nose. Clearing out this right lung. Inhale, we come up. Exhale, we're just going to cascade over to the other side. Now the left arm's overhead. We're resting on the right palm. You can go more into this yin or surrender type shape. More rounded, more relaxed. Remember, the quality or the state of the breath is very representative of the state or the quality of the mind. And one will manipulate the other. So if our mind is really squirrely and unruly, then the breath is going to show up that way. And the reverse of that, if we start to control the breath in a conscious manner, then that can equally have an effect on the mind. And that is why the breath is so vitally important in yoga. Inhale, let's rise up to the top. Once you're here, I'm sitting on a bolster, but I don't want to be for the next pose. You may need it for the next pose. It's going to be Baddha Konasana. So we're actually going to do this actively, where the heels are closer to the body. And allow the pinky toe side of the foot to stay connected as if it were the seam of a book. And then open the big toes away from one another so that as you open the feet, you're also, in essence, opening the hips. Now go ahead and start to fold forward and maintain a relative straight back since we're being active here. What I'm trying to do is warm up the inner thighs and the hips before we get up to stand. The hips and the back have a very close relationship, and sometimes just bringing up the hips can help to free up the back, the low back, really. Perhaps affirming mentally within, secure in myself, I accept whatever is. And then inhale, let's come all the way back up. We're going to take the hands up underneath the knees, draw them up together. And once you draw the knees together, we're going to shift forward, and you can use your hands to lift your seat away from the floor, eventually crawling them ahead of the toes, stacking the hands onto the thighs, and seeing if you can come to toe balance. Toe balance is where we start erecting the spine. Trying to get the vertebrae lined up over the pelvis, maybe rolling the shoulders back, perhaps hands to prayer at the heart, gazing somewhere on a fixed object. Then let's go ahead and sink the hands back to the floor, lengthen out through the legs, fold in half. And you can perform dangling, which is more yin, soft knees, or uttanasana, which is straight legs. Choose what is best for you. I meant to say we're going to be opening up, the quads today because we're going to be doing a lot of flexion in the knees. One of the reasons I mentioned have a blocker bolster close by. Hopefully you have a blanket or a thick mat, as we will be residing on one of the knees shortly. Now on your next in-breath, root down through the soles of the feet, sweep the arms to your sides and up overhead. And when you reach the arms up overhead, feel as though you're gathering all the support, all the abundance you need, all the clarity you need, and then bring the hands down to prayer position at the heart. All right, we're going to start to move a little bit more. So as you inhale, flutter the arms skyward, returning to upward worship. Feel as though you're holding on to what you've gathered as you pour down through your midline, eventually releasing the hands apart as you return to the standing forward fold. Inhale, we're going to step the right foot back. When we step the right foot back, we're going to take the left hand to the inside of that foot, and the right hand's not going to be with it. It's actually going to pull back like this. You want to make sure that you're lunging the front knee and opening that left thigh away from your upper body, and then you're just going to hinge the elbows, drape down a little bit more towards the floor, and you're going to hold this position. It's very similar to active Spider-Man. Sometimes we plant the back foot. If you feel the need to plant the back foot, then you can absolutely do that. Now we'll walk the hands back around. Once the hands are framing that front foot, you're going to sink the back knee, untuck the back toes, and release the head and the heart. So notice as we're sinking the hips downward, It's really releasing that iliopsoas muscle at the right hip. Notice how much sensation is erupting on this side. You can practice diaphragmatic breathing, the victorious breath. And sometimes we need the cleansing breath. The cleansing breath is helpful if you find that your teeth or your lips or your jaw feels clenched. It's also helpful if your mind gets stuck on one idea. All right, we're gonna curl the back toes under, lift that knee, step into plank. Exhale, rock forward, lower down to chaturanga. Inhale to any back bend. So you can do up dog, cobra, sphinx, whatever's your favorite. And then eventually roll back to downward facing dog. Couple more breaths here. Finding that balance of effort and ease. Right foot's now gonna step ahead. Once you get that foot in the right placement and the knee stacked over the ankle, we're gonna bring the right hand to the inside. We're gonna draw the left hand back and we're gonna crouch low. Again, opening the right thigh away from your waist. Bring the hands back around. Release the back knee. You can also untuck the back toes. And then we bow the head. See if there's more or less sensitivity here. Be just as tender with yourself on one side as well as the other. Being tender over being judgmental. Being tender versus trying to force something to happen. All right, we're gonna curl the back toes under and we're gonna step the back foot forward. Open up the heart center before bowing back down. You can approach this pose the yin or the yang way. Maybe nodding your head. Inhale, coming all the way to the top. Think about asking for what you need. And then with the level of trust and an attitude of gratitude, bringing the hand straight down through your midline, holding again. And this time we're going to step the left foot back. We're going to sink the back knee to the ground. We'll plant the left hand off to the side. And this is where we're going to have the right hand side up to the top of the thigh. And the back foot is going to point and lift. And I'm already feeling it without even grabbing it. So don't think that you have to grab your foot. If you want to try, your right hand can take a hold of it. Maybe draw it in a little closer. But don't forget about sinking the hips. This is not one of the more pleasant poses. But hey, life's not always pleasant either. One more breath. At least I'm not making us hold it forever. Let's release. Curl the back toes, lift the back knee, step to plank, shift forward, lower down to chaturanga. Inhale to your heart opening pose. And exhale, rock and roll to downward facing dog. See if you can gain a little bit more height through your hips. See if you can send a little bit more breath into your lungs. Inhale, the left foot's going to step through. And this time the back knee will release. We'll step the right hand over and plant it down. The left hand will come to the left thigh. And the right foot will pick up and point. Perhaps now, taking the left hand behind you, holding it there or drawing it closer. And release. Once you release the back foot, I scooted my bolster too far away. We're going to change up our flow now. We're going to slide the bolster underneath that front leg. Heel toe the left foot over to the other side in front of it. Lay the shin towards the floor and the pelvis right on top of the bolster. You should be resting on top of that right thigh. And you're just going to plant your hands in front of you. Hold it here. Be at liberty at this point if you want to scoop forward and lower to your forearms or prayer hands, you may. The bolster makes it a little bit more restorative, not quite as yin. But some days the support feels nice, and you can tell you're still receiving benefits. Your next inhalation, let's slowly begin to lift our way back up. When you lift your way back up, we're gonna push back away from the hands. Heel toe that left foot back around. Slide the bolster away. Transfer to downward facing dog. Stepping the right foot through, and you can always do that from tabletop. And then we'll take this to the other side. So the bolster will now slide up underneath the right leg. We'll heel toe that right foot over to softly land towards the right shin. Even out your hips here. Stay stacked on top of your left thigh. And then walk your hands a little bit more forward. That will bring a little bit more ease to the lumbar area of your back. And just be here for a few breaths. Maybe take it down lower at this point. Few more breaths. Inhale, slowly start to come up. Pushing your hands, lift up through your hips. Heel toe the right foot back around. Slide the bolster off to the side. maybe grab a block and bring it with you, because we're slowly going to sit back in half saddle. So half saddle, the left knee is bent. Let me turn this way. The left knee is bent. You're resting on the shin and the foot's alongside your hip. Now, sitting on a blanket underneath that right side of your seat can be helpful for even ground, but you may also need a block or two to sit on to relieve that knee. And if your leg is not wanting to create the shape, please don't force it. You don't want to get stuck in it. You don't want to injure yourself. If this is not working out, please come to half butterfly, similar to Jani Shasana. We'll lift the arms up, and then we'll exhale, flow down. Any history of herniated disc, you'll keep the foot flexed, toes pointed up, quads and upper thigh firm, belly firm, and spine straight. Otherwise, none of those disc issues, just relax your ankle, soften your knee, round your back. On your next inhale, we're slowly going to start to lift up out of this half saddle. And we're going to slide the right foot back. It is perfectly fine if you're sitting on a block. Hopefully you can reach the floor behind you. If not, it might be useful to have another block for your hands or the bolster for your hands. But we're leaning into the hands for support, and we're pushing down through the left shin, right foot in order to tuck the tailbone, to shift the hips forward, and then eventually leaning the head back. Now don't jackknife the neck all the way back, just enough to look up. If that's too much for your neck, just look forward. As you exhale, slowly come back down. And we're going to move into a twist. Stay in that position. I'm just turning this way so that you have this visual. The right knee that was up, we're just going to lower it down. Again, you can be sitting on a block, totally fine. We're going to inhale, lift the chest, and then twirl to the right. Left hand crosses to the right knee, right hand props behind our back. And if your left knee is over this position, then straighten your left leg out instead. Have the right knee open, and you can do the twist this way. Because really that's what we're emphasizing is the twist in this particular pose. I'm only asking you to attempt to stay in half saddle because we're building up for the full saddle pose in just a minute. All right, exhale and wind. Lift that right knee, slide the leg out, and you can release your left. Come away from the block if you're still sitting on it. Lean into your hands, separate your feet, and just flip-flop the feet in and out. Bend your knees, and then windshield wipe twist, inhaling to one side, exhale to the other. Inhale to one, exhale to the other. And let's do that one more time. Now I get to go to the other side. So left leg will now be extended, and we're going to try our hand with half saddle with the right leg. So again, you may need that block to reside on. You may prefer a blanket. You don't even have to fold. Check in. But if you do want to fold, lift the arms up to help to extend the spine. We want that space in the low back before we hinge down. Remember to approach it in the active or passive way, what's best for your body. Your body has been your vehicle thus far in this lifetime. You know it better than anyone. And if you don't, this is the perfect time to learn more. And even when we know our bodies, it's unpredictable, right? So you guys will probably laugh at me. I took a pregnancy test today. Here I am going through perimenopause symptoms, but my face has been breaking out. I've been gaining weight in my stomach. I am on birth control, but I'm on the type that doesn't allow me to have a moon cycle. So I don't know. And my breasts have been really tender and achy, and I've been a little moody, and I know all of that is perimenopausal symptoms, but I'm still at that age. And so coming back home from Unity, I stopped by Walgreens, like, let me just make sure, because even though I think this is all menopausal symptoms, let's just, give a little peace to the mind here. It's always good to stay in the question. Inhale, let's slowly start to back our way out of half saddle. And then we'll slide the left foot back. This is where if you're still sitting on a block, make sure you can touch the floor with your hands. This may be enough for you. I'm actually already feeling this before even lifting. Or create a base for your hands to bring the floor to you. And we'll tuck and lift. Maybe even open the throat if it feels okay for your neck. Exhale, let's lower back down. And then when we come back to a seat, we're going to open up that left knee and hip. Okay, so it just kind of turns out to the side. And again, if this side of your body, your right leg or knee, if it's starting to feel uncomfortable, feel free to extend it out for the twist. Okay. Either way, let's energetically lift on the in breath and spin to the right on the out breath. Left hand to the right knee, left hand behind the back. And let's exhale, unwind. From unwinding, let's go ahead and stretch the right leg out if you haven't already. Send the left leg to join. We're gonna flip-flop the feet in and out. Same counter we did after that last sequence. Bending the knees. Inhale, windshield wipe to one side. Exhale, windshield wipe to the other. Do that a couple more rounds. And then we get to build up for that final saddle or hero pose. All right, so if your knees are your issue, maybe you can't handle that much flexion. Maybe you've already sensed there's been a challenge with this practice for your body. I'm just going to show you, if you stack up blocks and a bolster, you can create, do you see how I'm creating the pose? Where it's not as much flexion for the knees. And they may or may not even touch the floor. Mine are hovering just a little bit. Some people like just the bolster. Some people prefer a block. I think you guys know Susan from the studio. She usually puts 2 blocks down, which the 2 blocks, by the way, is very similar to the meditation benches that Carlos made for us. So you can use 2. Now, if just experimenting, right? With all the props, with all the heights, with all the levels, figure out one that you can sustain, that you can maintain for a period of time, right? Because yin, we hold the postures a little bit longer. So this is hero. Now, you guys, this felt really good to me earlier. And now I'm already sensing my body starting to say enough. So I'm going to provide a bolster on my back end. Some people like to recline backward, but I'm really trying to emphasize the feet and the ankles today. See if you can create your mudra for meditation on your lap. For men, it's generally right hand over the left. For women, generally left hand over the right. Thumbs together. And this is our build-up pose. Feel free to close your eyes. And you may find this is a pose that you could not meditate in because there's too much going on. But this is considered a nice seat for meditation. You just wouldn't want as much sensation, which is why all the props are great. So let's have a little silence here. And we'll slowly come out of this shape. You can shift forward, and I would suggest coming to table and maybe tapping the feet. And then you don't have to use a blanket for this, but I like using a blanket for this pose. For Savasana, we're going to do the one where the legs are just stacked on top of the bolster going beneath. If you have a blanket though, it's really lovely to swaddle the legs, to wrap them up, to tuck it under. And then when you roll back, this is just a little trick of the trade that I like to share. I like to hold the bolster with my hands, scrunch the belly in, and as I'm rolling down, I'm actually bringing the bolster with me a little bit, and then eventually let the bolster go, fanning the arms to the sides, or of course your hands can also rest on your stomach. So we were building up for hero pose to remind ourselves that we are the hero of our own stories. And the yin term for that pose is saddle. And to be the hero of our story, we must saddle up and prepare for life's ride. It can be turbulent at times. can also be healing and nurturing at times. Let this moment be healing and nurturing for your mind, your body, and your spirit. For today's practice, I want you to gaze into your mind's eye and imagine a beautiful indigo blue light. Allow this ray of indigo blue to flash across your brow, to shine down through your spine, to illuminate your limbs, to fill up your face, and letting this ray of indigo blue light cultivate some calming, peaceful energy. The full moon possibly is making the mind restless. But come back to that indigo blue ray of light, flashing across your brow, shining down through the spine, illuminating the limbs, feeling up the face, cultivating calm sense of peaceful energy within. Let's take 7 more breaths. After your 7, you can unruffle the blanket from the legs, hug them in, roll to one side, pick yourself up, find a comfortable seat, sitting upright. Feel free to bring in that mudra we started with. And closing the hands together to prayer, bowing your head in its direction. May we all walk away from this practice being more free and at peace in our bodies, hearts, and minds. Namaste.